A fine morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us. I guess I am within my rights to be saying compliments of this season to you, because we haven't been together from the beginning of the year. So it's better late than never. Compliments of the season to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, back to work straight away, and let me introduce my guest to you this morning, Dr. Olabisi Deji-Folutile. Is it Folutile or Folutile?
Folutile.
I got it, and then I messed it up myself.
No, you got it.
Dr. Olabisi Deji-Folutile. She's a journalist and editor-in-chief of the online newspaper Frank Talk Now. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed. And our guest, I think I need to say Chief Malachy Ugwumadu. He's here. You know, he's a lawyer. He's a former president of CDHR, and you can sort of deduce from all of that he's a human rights lawyer as well.
Thank you for having me, Yori.
Indeed.
My appellations keep changing on each day I appear here. Thank you.
Our pleasure to have you. Now, something quite important. INEC on Friday, it came out in the news on Friday that INEC was participating in a sort of a seminar council because it identified with it the objective of which was to try and look at this whole matter of election spending in particular. How do we spend money on our elections? If you didn't know anything about it, you say, oh, well, that's up to your fortune and your luck. If you want to run for anything and you have the money to give you an advantage, go right ahead. No, you can't do that. There actually are rules. But in the amendment electoral bill, that is, that we still have to, we're yet to sign, the provision has now been raised from what it was in the case of a presidential race to 5 billion naira. I think governors, have now moved up to 1 billion naira. That is ceiling of what you can spend. The ceiling. You might spend less, but even then, 5 billion naira and 1 billion naira. Well, maybe it's just to some of us, because we're regular folks, that it sounds like a king's ransom, never mind a prince's ransom. But it does go to show how expensive these things can be. If our learned gentlemen, or shall we say the honorable and distinguished members in the National Assembly, have seen fit to propose 5 billion naira with which you can run for the presidency, if you have it, 1 billion in the case of governors, and of course it went down the line like that. Before we come to, well, there certainly are morals of it, but I wanted to ask you, Dr. Deji-Folutile, did you know that we spend such sums, or that you could spend such sums?
Well, I think we spend far, far more than that if we really want to look at if there is a case of accountability, for example. Politics in Nigeria is like going to war, and it's like you budget so much.
You have to have a war chest.
Yes, so you have to have a war chest. You budget so much for it, and at the end of the day, you don't even know if the votes of the electorate actually count, because money plays a huge role in our politics. Yeah, before this amendment, the ceiling for presidential candidates was 1 billion naira, and for governors 200 million naira. But we all know that these people spend far, far above that amount of money, which is probably responsible for the review by the National Assembly to increase it to 5 billion for the president and 1 billion for governors. As a matter of fact, the one for senators before was 40 million naira. In this new electoral bill, it has been moved up to 100 million naira. The one for the House of Reps was 10 million naira, raised to 30 million naira. For the state houses of assembly, it used to be 10 million naira, and it has been reviewed upward to 30 million naira.
So anybody in Lagos State, Ogun State, wherever state you want to run, you've got to have 30 million
30
naira.
Million naira.
Wow.
However, the sources of funding.
At a minimum.
At a minimum. No,
No,
at
well,
the maximum.
well, that's the ceiling.
The ceiling,
according
the
to the bill.
maximum, yeah.
But you were just saying that you wouldn't be surprised if they don't spend a lot more.
They do. Though the sources of income does not have to be from the candidates alone.
Of course.
Actually, the sources range from the party, the political
But it must
parties.
be transparent.
But it has to be transparent. And because if you look at the adverts they run, where does this money really go into? Let's look at it.
Okay. You know what? We're going to come back to that because
Okay.
these are things that we want to sort of look at. Malachy, the other thing is that she was just going to touch on that, what these monies are spent on. Of course, you can sit down here and off the top of your head, you can imagine that, oh, there will be posters, you see posters, there will be adverts in papers and that kind of a thing, maybe organizing some rallies. But the matter of the former chairman of INEC, he had mentioned that, look, if for instance you tell us that, I don't know why he chose posters, outdoor posters, he used that as an example. If for instance you tell us that so many outdoor posters, then we ought to be able to check. Now this is the crux, this is the area of my question. How doable, no matter how noble the idea is that is being considered now, how doable is it to really be able to monitor these funds, as INEC said it already before now has planned to? How easy is it to monitor? It says, INEC says it will bring in central bank, it will bring in EFCC, it will bring in code of conduct. These are our monitoring organs. What do you think, Malachy? How doable is that project?
There lies the challenge. That is the operationalization of the idea, even the law. Do not forget that the extant law, and I'm referencing the Electoral Act 2010, as well as the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, copiously established the powers and authority of the election monitoring body, that is INEC, to monitor the activities of political parties, including their finances, their source of finances, the auditing, their financial report, and even went ahead to insist that the report which they make of this monitoring shall be submitted to the National Assembly. It's there in the Constitution. So what then is the problem? That is precisely what you have asked.
Yes. The sources of these funds.
The fact that the legislature, being members of which are active participants in this process, have in their wisdom, or well, if you say discretion too, raised these bars from 1 billion in the case of the president to 5 billion, which is the maximum you are authorized to spend.
To spend.
Governors.
After you would have spent money buying the form, whatever that is.
Used to be 200 million, now it is 1 billion, and so on and so forth. The fact that they did that presupposes that what used to be spent is by far more than what the law prescribes.
It's a fair guess to make.
Well, it is. I wish somebody can contradict that. In
No,
any
since
case,
we don't have any of these.
in any case,
It's just a very highly educated
to
guess.
our knowledge. I mean, we have seen governors, side talks, undercurrent waters, permutations, who come out with the view that if you have less than ₦1 billion, you cannot smell that office. So the crux of the matter is a challenge of monetization of electoral processes. Is the question of raising...
That includes vote buying as well.
Exactly.
Vote buying, of course. What is the war chest meant for? it is to muzzle out your opponent, either by hook or by crook. And most often, in a very impoverished society like ours, it is to induce financially those who are to cast their vote one way or the other. We make the point that the whole idea is to empower. INEC is already empowered. INEC is now seeking collaboration with law enforcement agencies, other institutions of government that has inputs and intervene in financial activities regarding the spending of these political parties. Let me make some constitutional provisions very clear. Section 221 of the Constitution is to the effect that it shall be the political parties that spends money to win election or sponsor the funding of candidates. So if that is the case, and these political parties are registered and they are known legal personalities, it will mean that they have an account. If they have an account, it will mean that it is domiciled somewhere. And then for the Apex Corp, a bank in the country, which is the central bank, have been or the support of the Apex Bank is sought to be part of this monitoring activity. EFCC, under the EFCC Act, Section 4 precisely, has a mandate to look into every and each financial crime in the country or activities. So to that extent, including the DSS, who is supposed to operate discreetly, they are to monitor and collaborate with INEC that has a constitutional right to monitor the political parties, including their finances, with a view to limiting.
They talk about needing to declare their banking accounts.
Yes.
You know,
that on a yearly basis. That is what the law says.
Yes. But now, when we come to this very important matter of election, we've touched on some of the subjects. Needing a war chest. What exactly you're going to do with that war chest? Well, it's about vote buying. But there's also another aspect to all of this. Corporate organizations, you know, and all of anybody else, they make donations. Not just in Nigeria. In fact, I didn't even know that we also partake of that particular facility in Nigeria. I certainly knew that it's the same way, you know, abroad. But there are rules. I imagine there are rules. How they didn't talk.
Apologies, sir.
Yes, sir.
Apologies. Straight away, it is a criminal. It is at law. The law prohibits companies, including corporate bodies, to make financial donations or gifts to political parties. And I'm referencing Section 43. Section 43 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. Now, I just want to leave
meanwhile,
because sorry, Section 42. It's a very Section 42, Section 2 of
well, if that is the case, INEC recognizes donations from corporate bodies, from individuals, and from party members.
But not from corporate bodies. I think that's the distinction
Malachy was making. That's the point. From companies.
No, he's saying companies.
Well,
but INEC says you can actually get funds from corporate
bodies. Bodies may be different from.
So now, the difference between corporate bodies and companies is what we need to now talk about. Because as it is now, if INEC recognizes donations from corporate bodies, how do you now define a corporate body? Do you say a company is not a corporate body? For example,
I think lawyers I think lawyers say something about a company being a corporate person.
Yes, once an entity is incorporated under the laws of this country, it becomes a corporate body. So that is different from a company.
Okay.
A company, it has a different distinct features from corporate body. Civil societies could become a corporate body. Individual bodies, that persons that came together and got registered can be corporate bodies.
I guess the very important thing I'm getting from what you're saying is that commercial companies
incorporated under the Company and Allied purposes cannot. And that is Section 42, Subsection 2.
What I'm trying to say now is that there seems to be a clash
between those
because using that corporate bodies can be misunderstood.
It can be misleading.
Yes,
but they are not misleading.
And meanwhile, which means that these companies can also fund political parties in Nigeria based on this donation from corporate organizations, because they are also corporate entities. So I guess that is an issue that we need to also point out, because as it is now, there is a limit to what corporate organizations can even donate. I think the limit is even 1 million naira. I'm not too sure. The INEC pegs that to a maximum of 1 million naira. But you also,
that must be duly recorded.
Yes, that must be duly recorded.
And they're not expected to be doing any under the table donation.
Yes, and anyone that even does more than that is culpable, can be jailed.
Okay.
That is part of the law.
But you know, we have laws in our country, in our beloved country. We're not short of laws. What people have always complained about, you don't even need to be a lawyer, you just need to be interested in the country, is that we don't uphold those laws. This is the biggest problem of all. But I think it's admirable that INEC has gone into this thorny patch, if I may call it that, because that is exactly what it is. How doable is it? You know, as soon as, forgive my taking on so sort of darker persona, there are those who say that as soon as the law comes out, people immediately go to work thinking how to circumvent it and how to avoid it, and if the worst comes to the worst, how to break it if it can be done in secret.
Now let's look at this case in point, the issue of INEC trying to...
Oh, I beg your pardon. I have a call. Mr. Olaleko in the UK. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Compliment of the season.
Indeed, I wish you the same.
All right. Okay, there's nothing wrong in donor to a political party if donors donate to money to political parties. It's happened everywhere around the world. Every political party around the world. And then we cannot say there's no progress in our politics in Nigeria. Like that woman always said, the woman in your program, because I watched her.
The lady, Dr. Folutile?
Exactly.
Okay.
He always criticized Nigeria for everything.
Oh, you know this lady personally?
From journalist hangout.
Okay. Please go on. Please carry on.
Sir,
please carry on.
Positive about our country. There's no perfect democracy around the world. There's no perfect country. The journalists of Nigeria need to promote Nigeria. But to me, they bring Nigeria down.
Okay.
It doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
And it's journalists.
Every ratification, which is not good.
And okay, I take what you're saying. I beg your pardon. I take the point that you've made. Sorry very much for interrupting you. I take the point that you've made. You think the journalists have a sacred responsibility by the very nature of, shall I say, the influence of their work, that it goes far and wide and indeed influences minds. That that's what you're saying. That you would expect that journalists would always behave in the best interest of the country. Did you have anything that you wanted to say to that? Since he thought that he thought you have a critical tone when it comes to Nigeria.
Well, I think everybody is entitled to their opinion, because if we even look at what we are discussing right now, nobody has criticized anybody.
That is a fact.
And nobody has said it is wrong for...
But he did say it's a carryover from him having watched you on Journalist Hangout. So you might have given a particular opinion on a particular day that, struck a raw nerve.
With him.
That struck a raw nerve. And so as soon as I saw you here today, I said, do you know the lady from Journalist Hangout? Okay.
So that hangover is there.
It is still there, because so far today, of course she's free to criticize whoever she wants to, but she hasn't criticized anyone today. But the point that he also was making about the role of journalism in all of this, I think there's a sense in which you can understand it too.
Well, journalism has a special place in nation building. Even the Constitution recognizes the place of journalists under Section 22 of the Constitution to hold the government accountable to the people.
Exactly.
And so if that is the responsibility of the media, then you cannot expect anything less critical, particularly in the way and manner they objectively discharge the functions of their office.
Because of
now, I make that point because if you live here with us in Nigeria, I have a lot of siblings in England. They have not become as critical as we have been even when the jurisprudence case, roll out every other day, because there are enough institutional framework to deal with the challenges that we are taking on, I think personally and individually.
I agree with you, because quite frankly, let it be known, we are, and there's a sense in which we're very proud of the fact, we are a critical bunch in Nigeria. We will have our say. Good morning, Mr. George. Compliments of the season.
Sorry, Uncle, I have a code. Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you.
Nice to have you back. Your leave was too long.
I complain too.
Good morning, Malachy, and the lady there.
Dr. Olabisi Deji-Folutile.
Yes, please don't stop doing your work. Criticism is not a sin. If you are saying something is not being done rightly, you are not wrong, unless what you are pointing out is not the truth. If it is the truth, there's nothing wrong in saying something should be done better. That's what criticism is about, and that's what journalism is also about. But coming back to the subject of the day, Uncle Yori.
Yes, election spending.
To me, I think it is needless discussing this topic, because we know it doesn't work, and it cannot work in our land. How do you tell somebody who is contesting election in an environment like ours that there is a limitation on what he can spend, and he will go by that limit? Uncle Yori, cannot work. Can you calculate how much the person will give to his political party to be given a ticket? Is that part of it? Do you know how much people collect from contestants at community levels? Most Nigerians that vote, this is the truth of the matter, they do not vote according to the merit of the person contesting. It is according to what they can get from him. So how do you now calculate how much he can spend to satisfy people that are going to vote for him? For me, it's not worth discussing.
I hear you, Mr. George, and indeed you're entirely entitled to your opinion, but it is a bleak sort of summary of our political processes. Perhaps you'll agree. Okay, Mr. George.
Well, even the opinion he has offered is part of the discussion.
It is.
He is making the point that it is incredibly difficult to be able to monitor funding and spending in political processes in Nigeria.
But it can be done. Tallies can be made. Tallies can be made, and you can be warning people that, Mr. XYZ, we are keeping tabs, and so far you spent 4.5 billion naira. You are not going to be spending anything more than 500 million naira more, lest you infringe the law.
That is the assumption that INEC is proceeding on. INEC has an idea of where to go to, and that is the banks and the financial institutions where these funds are sourced and domiciled. However, I'm not sure that all the money spent in political activities are in the banks.
They must have an account.
Well, you say so, but I'm saying that I'm not sure that all the money spent in political processes in Nigeria are monies withdrawn from the banks and official sources.
Okay.
Which is precisely why I guess that they are also enlisting the services of the DSS, a discrete law enforcement agency that has the capacity to go beyond formal institutions like banks and monitor discreetly what could be going on and report to the statutory body that has the statutory responsibility to monitor.
Okay, I have another caller from the UK. Are they in the UK?
Dr. Yori.
Chief Ade, good morning to you.
I want to give my sister in the studio, Dr. Olufile.
Yes.
She's doing a very fantastic job.
There you go. There you go.
So, and I want to greet the senior advocate of Nigeria, Elective.
Yes.
Chief all of you are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, Mr.
My critic is to Dr. Yori. He has disappeared since last year. He just appeared suddenly now. He has to explain to us why he disappeared and appearing now.
He's part of the monitoring
team.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Now I know you didn't watch. Now, sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Now I know you didn't watch us on Friday. If you had watched on Friday, you won't say this morning that I'm just suddenly appearing now. You know, I did a preliminary, showing on Friday. But that shows me you didn't watch on Friday. But please continue, sir.
So I didn't watch on Friday. That is not an excuse. Regarding the spending of the INEC.
Yes, we're spending on politicians.
To me.
Not INEC.
Or the politicians, whatever. So I think the money is in Nigeria. So they are spending, let them continue to spend. The person will continue to benefit. So that's it. God bless Nigeria.
Okay. You know what? Let's take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
Stay with us, please. We'll be right back and we'll continue with this conversation. Okay, welcome back, and we're looking at election spending, especially against the backdrop of the bill before the president that requires, I think it's back to the National Assembly now. It's 5 billion naira that you can spend in your endeavor as a president to clinch the seat of a president, and it goes down 1 billion for governors. And you were just giving us the list. So we're now looking at how doable is all of this? It's all against the background of leveling the playing field for every Nigerian to be able to come in if he so wishes. Good morning, Mr. Mohammed in Abuja.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. How are you?
Very well, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, happy to see you. Welcome, and then Happy New Year.
Indeed. Compliments of season to you.
Thank you very much, Uncle Larry. Concerning monitoring election spending, this has to do with INEC. INEC has to make a law concerning spending on the elections. And then they have to work hand in hand with EFCC to monitor how to spend and then how to curb those spending. I think it will go a long way.
But Mohammed, this is what INEC is saying it has done, is doing already.
He has done it, but how have we implemented it, Uncle Yori?
Okay.
We always make law without implementation.
Okay. I hear you.
Yes, that's our problem. We always make laws, but we cannot implement. So that is it. If we can now work with the FCC to implement those laws, I think it will go a long way to help. That's my one suggestion, Uncle Larry, and then I wish you all the best throughout this year. I hope 2022 will be better than 2021.
Indeed, thank you very much.
Security and whatever, all we are praying for that. Thank you and have a nice celebration. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you very much for your kind words, Mohammed. Well, he just said, and I had said a variant of it, that we have laws. It's upholding those laws that's the problem. INEC has said, in the report that I read, that we're already dealing with these organs. It referred to them as organs. That is DSS, CBN, and any bank that doesn't comply, it's going to be easy to hold it to account. The whole matter about the doability of it, because of the secrecy involved with money, nobody, now they say they have to declare their accounts, their banking details. You think it's doable? Because the noble objective is to make sure that if I, for instance, suddenly got a brainwave and I wanted to become a parliamentarian, which one will I enter?
That cannot be a brainwave.
State House of Assembly.
Yes,
how much is that one?
30 million, just 30 million.
Now 30 million.
Now they've raised it to 30 million spend ceiling.
Limit.
So it really it puts a different texture on everything. When you look at these figures and you look at this guy who's an honorable, he's a representative, he's a distinguished senator, you immediately know the kind of money the guy is playing with for him to come into office. Yeah. Now, where does this money come from all of these people? I mean, you were just saying that donations are not a careless affair. Where is 30 million going to come from if a young man from Mushin, for example, I don't know anybody in Mushin, but if a young man from Mushin had this idea, where is he going to have the 30 million? Although he doesn't have to spend 30 million.
Yes. He could as well spend
5 million.
Just 500,000 and defeat somebody who has spent 10 million. The point is this.
I'll come to you.
Okay.
And I think that this is where the discussion should gravitate. It is that, look, there is not much problem in in funding. Indeed, you cannot do without funding in political processes anywhere in the world.
Yes.
What is prohibited, or what is sought to be prohibited, is the overspending, which alienates people of little means and credibility from participating. But the issue is this: you hear of crowdfunding, for instance.
Exactly.
Where people can individually contribute 1,000 naira or less than that.
If you do that,
and generate by far more than what.
But it must be audited.
It must be audited.
And the INEC can possibly say, sorry, the rules do not permit it.
We have said that both the Electoral Act and the Constitution empower INEC to do that. Indeed, under Section 150, INEC can prosecute if it constitutes an electoral offense.
The good thing is that INEC is saying that it's ready and it is minded in this way.
And this is where we should be focused.
Exactly. Mr. Ocheche, good morning, sir.
Morning, Uncle Harry.
Thank you very much for calling in. Happy New Year. Compliments of the season to you.
Yes. Look, my contribution. Mr. Malachy has said it all. Because, one, there is no way, even if they recruit all Nigerians to the EFCC or DSS, that they can monitor the party spending. Because before they spend, they know how the money go through the villages and the rest, other leaders within the community. Nobody will be there when they distribute this money. And the money are not coming from the bank. With this, which means the young persons will not be able to participate in Nigerian elections. That is a new party. Where will they get this 5 billion, this billion from? So, this...
No, look, sorry, Mr. Cheche, don't let's exaggerate it. It's only if you're gunning for the presidency that you need, that you have a ceiling of 5 billion naira. Should it be should it be governor you want? That's only 1 billion naira. It's only 1 billion naira if you want to become a governor. And if you are even more modest, you want to go for the State House of Assembly, what? 30 million naira. It's categories, monkey by grade.
What?
So, I mean, people have to spend money. And I think what this movement now is acknowledging that fact, but saying, let's put some regulation to it, because at the end of the day, the country is not for sale.
And INEC is taking it seriously.
And INEC is taking it seriously.
The national commissioner
has
been designated to be the chairman of the monitoring committee. I think one Professor Ajayi.
Yes. So INEC is taking the matter very, very seriously, and as it should. But you see, we're focusing right now on the upper limit, and it has been said that you don't even have to spend that. I'm not going to talk about the presidency and even the governorship one, but if the 30 million, for example, it's the ceiling. It is possible, but that you might be so popular that you don't really need more than a maximum of 10 million naira to trounce anybody. It depends.
Well, actually, he was
just trying to put some logic to it.
He was making a point about difficulty in actually monitoring.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring up the point of third-party campaigners.
Yes.
For example.
Okay.
Now, this law and even what INEC is saying about getting the candidates' account details is all about candidates. But are we looking at third-party campaigners, for example? How do you account for the money that these campaigners spend? For example, somebody can just say, I like you, and I'm even asking you to contest.
Yes.
And I am doing this. Yes. You are not the one that sent me.
People say, don't worry that you don't have money.
I'm the one spending this money. And we have a lot of that in Nigeria. How do you monitor?
That is part of our culture.
Exactly. So how do we monitor the spending from that side? Is it part of the 1 billion, 5 billion we are talking about? Now, okay, I think the way out is this. We should recognize the activities of these ones. Really, there is nothing that the DSS and the EFCC cannot really get at if they want to.
If they want to.
If they want to. So even if you are claiming to be campaigning for me, we could still monitor how much you are spending. if we want to monitor such. But we need to put that into consideration when we are looking at this issue. Then another issue is the fact that there is no difference between a candidate and the political party. Even in this electoral act, one way you are talking about the candidates. Now INEC is saying candidates should disclose their bank accounts. Meanwhile, we also know that candidates don't contest in an election. It is the party that contests. So how do we match the two together? So you are looking at the candidates' accounts, you are not looking at the party's accounts. One way you say you talk about candidates, another time you talk about the party. How do we marry this together? This is a kind of lacuna that politicians also
will exploit.
Exploit.
You know. Okay, before I come to you, Malachy, let me take Mr. Samuel. Samuel is in Asaba. Oh dear, does that mean I missed Samuel? I just lost Samuel. I think we've sort of explained it, and we were hoping to also be able to talk with Mr. Okoye of INEC, but you know, sometimes it's not always possible because there are some aspects of this that he himself will have an angle on, and he would have shared that with us. But it's still something that we'll do when we get to. But I think the one thing that we've sort of brought to the fore here is that it's no simple matter to do what can be done, but the point has been made that it's not impossible as well.
Correct.
It's not impossible, but it's no simple matter.
In my view, and I'm very circumspect when I commend institutions of government, but in this on this particular score, I think INEC need to be commended. And the reason is that, first, by this move, they have brought a fresh consciousness on this issue. Secondly, there is some measure of determination on their part, given the effort they have made to seek the solidarity and cooperation or collaboration of relevant law enforcement agencies and institutions of government to help in monitoring this.
Okay.
But we have also gone ahead to identify that there are other unconventional means of fund distribution in our electoral processes. Yes. We are glad that the DSS is conscripted into this. And I have always maintained the view that any crime in any nation that defies the solution by government itself is involved in that crime.
You know, she brought up a point about the elections in Nigeria. It's not the candidate himself. You must have a platform on which you're running, and it is the party that actually...
That's very correct.
Yes. So there's that further complication. Let me bring in Patrick in Akwa Ibom State. Good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Patrick.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Our pleasure.
It's quite ideal to monitor our election spending. But I think if we monitor election spending, we should also at the same time monitor what this money can do and what this money should not do. Because if we monitor only the spending and we don't monitor what the money can do, and then we will not achieve it all. For instance, you see our aspirant, and especially governorship aspirant running to royal fathers, at the 11 hours of the election, buying them SUV jeeps. Yes. And you also see them sharing bags of rice and salt to the youths. I'm not saying these things are bad, but it bothers me because I keep asking a question. Why did you not share this thing 3 years ago? Why did you not share these things 2 years ago? Why is it at the 11 hours of this election? Are you getting what I'm saying?
Indeed, so, we get you.
I think we all know what are involved in election: transportation, printing, posters, video coverage, all those things and a lot more are involved. But I know too well that, paying visit to royal fathers and others, with SUV, buying rice and salt, for the youths and women, are some of those things that are not supposed to come, so that your real credibility can come out. Let us know whether you are chosen by your credibility or from what you have been able to share all around. So I think if we monitor election spending, we should also have restriction to what should be done during that period and what should not be done.
Okay.
So, and another thing I want to say here is that the government should be very, very careful, not to hinder corporate bodies from having access to funds to do their business, because what it means is that there is going to be a limit of amount one can withdraw within a certain period, which is going to affect innocent people from doing their business the way they are supposed to do. Because I know very well that politicians will siphon money to corporate bodies so that they can get it through there. It's not a bad policy, but I think they need to really
it needs to be worked. I get what
so thank you for having me this morning.
Indeed, thank you very much, Patrick, for joining the program. Yeah, I get what Patrick is saying, but he lost me a bit when he was talking about having to withdraw money. I didn't quite understand that ordinary people that are not even part of the whole electioneering process might therefore suffer. I didn't get that impression from the much I've heard on this particular story.
And I think that, it sits with the concern that my sister has here, talking about the distinction between corporate bodies and companies. What the law prohibits under CAMA is companies. Companies incorporated under the Companies and Allied Matters Act. This is different from corporate bodies, trustees and other forms of legal entities that are incorporated under Part C of CAMA. So the point he is making is, do not circumscribe your searchlight on this limit of spending. Move into what they do with the one they are authorized to spend.
Yeah, okay.
Such that where a political party or a candidate through his or her party decides to move money to a corporate entity that is permitted to donate, when that happens, it leads us to ground zero. That's the point he's making.
I think, Mazio Korafo, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Happy New Year.
Compliments.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I was thinking that it's a governor that potential governor is seated in that place. You're already potential governor because the way you just research, good morning, sir. SAN, Malachy Ugwumadu,
yes.
The doctor.
And our sister, Dr. Deji-Folutile.
Dr. Deji, good morning, my sister.
Good morning.
The issue of spending depends on one's capacity. But the question is this: all these agencies we have that monitor all this misappropriation, maladministration. The question is this: we make policies, but Nigerian question mark is implementation and monitoring.
Yeah.
We don't have those capacities because of the level of corruption, the level of illiteracy, the level of this is our turn, this is our turn to chop. That is the question Nigeria is facing today. So, if Nigeria as a country, you wake up one morning and say you want to contest for any post, and you have that capacity, what I mean by that capacity, your past record counts for you. Let me take our the former governor of Lagos, Tinubu. Now, he has a very legacy. That's the legacy he left behind as a governor. He was not aimed nothing like pensioners. He was not owing people say they will not pay their salary. Even though when the Obasanjo regime tracked his efforts, I think 3 to 5 years, he was paying the people because of the revenue he was generating from the state. But me, check their record. Now, such people are there. And what did when they come to the office, what are they going to do with Nigerian money? They've already just have a track record. That is the problem Nigeria is facing. Nigeria don't want to face the reality of life. If what is all these issues of spending. Now tell me, my brothers, my sister, if you have already created a very good record, you cannot waste money in terms of going to buy votes, going to rig election, going to hire talks, going to look for people to assassinate. You will not do that because your track record counts for you. People will just say voting. We saw what happened with Abiola and Papa. Did they spend money? No, because people have already made up their mind. It was 100% voting. Now Now, what I'm trying to call Nigeria is, we have seen what is happening now in Mali. We saw what happened in Burkina Faso yesterday. Yes. It was Mali and Burkina Faso was a sort of hellfire yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, because the people are demanding that this is what they want. Now, Nigeria, people are watching what is happening there, and that Nigerians should see that anybody want to vote, anybody coming to contest for any post, his record is very, very bad. When he was a governor, he did not perform. When he was in the office as a director or as a manager, he did not perform. Do not vote for that person. Let him waste his money and go.
Okay.
If we want the reality of
okay,
let us face life and get people that.
I hear you, Mazi. Thank you very much. Olabisi, I don't know. I heard everything that he said, and it's so ever so logical. But things aren't that straightforward. Unfortunately, is the problem that we've.
Yeah. Basically, what he's trying to say is that we should focus on politics of ideas, politics of issues, politics of development.
Yes.
That is what he's trying to say. And until we actually get to that point, it's going to be difficult for us to have good governance. That is the point.
Where did we learn what we have learned? I'm reminded of the story of the late and, if you want, great Gani Fawemi, who once was interested in the presidency. Remember?
Yes, I do.
Everybody knows he's a relentless, tireless campaigner for the good of all. And the whole thing just flopped because having delivered his ideas that you've just spoken about,
yes, he did.
The people were saying, where is the real idea?
The real idea.
Where is the real? We've heard all this one you read from speech. Where is the real idea?
And the man said,
you want me to bring money?
Exactly.
After sacrificing?
I was part of that process.
After sacrificing?
And that is part of the poverty of the situation. However, the business of nation building cannot stop because of the indiscretion of the people at a particular time. Yeah. And I believe that is precisely what we are working at, where people are continuing to evolve ideas on how to improve even in the face of the challenges and the odds we have faced.
Let me see if I can quickly squeeze in Mr. Afolabi in Igodo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, please go ahead quickly now.
Okay, thank you for having me. I am enjoying your program. The issue you are talking about now.
Yes, thank you.
My concern about is that one, when you are focusing on monitoring and management of the accounts, there are a lot of unbanked people in Nigeria. There are a lot of people who have banks but keep their money at home. Have you not seen all people are being tried by efficacy?
Yeah.
They made $5 million out in the soccer way and not the rest. How do you monitor that? So this money being used for election campaign, it's not for bank accounts. They come from that sources. But the one point is that what is that system? It's a value system. That's why it is wrong in our political system. We value money too much. To the extent that when your children is going to school, you want them to read any course that can bring money. You don't care about whether they are good for that course or they are able to do that course. So value systems are problem. Everybody wants to make money to be rich quickly. And that's why you see people go to politics to steal money. In the custom, stealing. Local government, stealing. Everywhere, everybody is stealing. People join this last month. They don't because they want to go and make money there.
Even become lawyers.
From educational,
even become lawyers.
From primary school, we emphasize on value systems that emphasizes integrity and goodness. Then all this rubbish will stop.
Okay. I want to thank you very much for calling in, from Igodo there. It's good. I think I want to follow Malachy's lead when he says that INEC should be commended for showing the seriousness that it devotes to this particular aspect. However, having said that, just about everybody agrees that it's not going to be a walk in the park, as Oyibo people used to say. Exactly. It's a serious one, but the noble idea behind all of this concern is to make politics what the Constitution says it is, that any Nigerian can contest for public office.
Regardless of the depth of your pocket.
Regardless of the depth of your pocket. There are other regulations. And then the other aspect that was brought up about the gentleman who called in from, I think it was Patrick in Akwa Ibom, who said that, look, beyond all of this, can we have regulations as to what can be done and what cannot be done with money?
I have an answer to that very quickly.
Because the fact that you have the fact that you have money, you cannot use part of that money to hire a hired assassin.
There is a quick answer to that.
Sure.
And that is a further admonition to INEC. to say that even the Electoral Act 2010, which is the extant law now, that empowers you to do A, B, C, D, and F, you have a duty to also identify what is known as electoral offenses.
Okay.
And under the same act, under section 150, you have the powers to prosecute.
Okay.
If you have limitations, you can collaborate.
You know,
the whole of MBA has offered to assist pro bono.
Okay. We're going to return to this subject because it's that big and
electoral
that
offenses.
important. Olabisi, any last word?
Yeah, just to also add that this time around, INEC should also do more about prosecution, enforcement of the law. So anybody that is found wanting should be prosecuted at the end of the day.
We really must run now. Thank you very much. That's Dr. Olabisi Deji-Folutile, journalist, editor-in-chief of franktalknow.com, an online newspaper, and Mr. Malachy Ugwumadu, lawyer, former president CDHR, and civil rights advocate.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Our pleasure. So that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.